Hello and welcome to Deals with Heels, where female entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Debra, your host, not the guest. Welcome to the show. I was just laughing with my guest we have today. I'm really excited to talk to her. She is a first daughters coach, and we've talked a little bit about first daughter syndrome kind of indirectly on the show with other guests, and with me is just talking about my life and all of my little traumas that I've had to overcome, which turns out really align with first daughter syndrome a lot. So let me just jump right in and get her introduced so we can start talking to the expert about this thing. Adaku Mbagwu is a Nigerian-born transformational guide and founder of Healed Hero, a global community of high-performing firstborn daughters who are ready to start living for themselves, reprogram old patterns, reclaim their power, and lead with ease. Her work lives at the intersection of mindset, healing, leadership, and legacy. Known as the first daughter coach, Adaku is on a mission to help the women the world leans on finally feel what it's like to be held, seen, and at peace. Please welcome Adaku to Deals with Heels.
Thank you for that introduction. I
So
am so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you as a guest. I had a cancellation and I was able to move her up because I was so excited about what she does. I am indeed a first daughter, and I have a first daughter and now a first granddaughter. And we'd like to hope that we don't instill all of those things on them too. But it just is true, man. First daughters, they get responsibilities early. They do.
They really, really do. And it's been intriguing to me. I kind of fell on the niche by accident. I didn't, as maybe the firstborn daughters that are listening to this, you kind of feel like you're alone in the struggles that you're going through until I started meeting and speaking to firstborn daughters and coaching women entrepreneurs, but then took a step back last year and realized, oh my gosh, all of them are firstborn daughters and all of them are going through the same thing and they're recreating it with their children. I'm like, I've got to do something to stop this chain reaction that is happening. Why is it that mothers show up in a particular way with their firstborn girl in particular that has her take on all of these belief strengths? I feel like the reason the community is called the Healed Hero community, I feel like they're the heroes of their community. They're like the pillar that everyone leans on. So there are positives that come from being a firstborn daughter, but there are so many unfortunate downsides that I'm sure we'll touch on.
They're really, I mean, for me, I always talked about it really being Gen X. And here in the United States, when I was in elementary school and primary school, it was the gifted and talented program, the Oprah Achievers. And when my kids were in, they called it enrichment. And I don't know what it is now, but I will tell you that that was the key for is you find your value through achievement, right? You did such a good job. And I was good at achieving things, but that is not sustainable as an adult. We don't have little certificates and little gold stars and all the little things to come home. And they mean a lot less to us as individuals than they did as the kid to the parent. And for me, that has been a huge thing to overcome, and that I don't achieve something every day. And it's like a womp womp kind of feeling.
Well, at least you've got to the point where it's not the thing that kind of rules your world. For most firstborn daughters, till the day they die, it's like, I am nothing if I'm not achieving. They kind of build their worth around needing to prove their value, needed to earn love from others because they grew up receiving that gratification through achievement. Oh, you're such a good girl. Oh my gosh, look what you did. So it's like, okay, if I'm not receiving anything, then I'm a failure, or I'm not loved, or I'm not a good person, or I'm not, and that's where the balance tips into an unhealthy relationship with self in
Well,
terms of.
and with others, I think too, because that need to be needed kind of thing. When that's the way you were raised, you were needed in so many ways. And when you're suddenly not needed anymore in the ways that you're used to, there's just space missing in there on where that used to be. And filling that space sometimes I tried to fill it just out of that whole feedback loop with the same conditions I was in that broke up my marriage to begin with almost. And it was very obvious I was in because I was healing that it was obvious that this is not the right thing that needs to fill that space. So tell us a little bit about how daughters end up in this inadvertently.
Well, I think as children, so it's interesting because you're saying things that for a lot of firstborn daughters, no matter how old they are, I've worked with women that are up to 65 years old, and they don't even realize that what's driving them is the need to be needed, right? They have these beliefs that, like, I need to do this, or people need me, and if I don't, then things are going to fall apart. And that's a story that keeps us kind of stretching ourselves to that absolute last wire to try and be everything to everyone. Where it comes from, I'm starting to figure this out. I haven't quite locked it because I think what's difficult is I'm working with the firstborn daughters that are healing themselves and growing their businesses with me, but I'm also looking at the dynamic between them and their children. And it's almost like when they have their first girl, they're trying to recreate the love that was missing from their parents in their first child. So there's a unconscious automatic expectation that I'm going to get filled with all this love and validation from my firstborn daughter that I didn't get from my parents. So then that trains into, which is why a lot of firstborn daughters become parentified. A lot of them are managing their parents' emotions. They're feeling like they are the adult in the household and they have to take care of the children and the parents. And because the parent actually indirectly puts them into that role. So if you're a child and you're looking to be loved, because that's our survival. If we're loved, then we're safe, then we're part of tribe. And your early conditioning is be mummy's helper, help me with your siblings, help me with your, then it's like, oh, I'm only going to survive if I'm the helpmate. So then you become really good at being the helpmate. So then on a subconscious level, on a survival level, it's like if I stop being needed, everyone's going to leave me. No one's going to love me. And when I was going through that transition, it was a real eye opener because I hit rock bottom. I fell into depression. I had two failed suicide attempts. And when I started working with a coach, he kept saying to me, "Why do you think you're here?" And I was like, "Well, no one really checks on me. Everyone just wants to take, take, take." I had all of these complaints and blames for everyone around me. And he just asked me one question. He kept saying, "Who told you you had to do that?" And eventually I heard the question. I was like, who did tell me I had to do that? Like, no one explicitly told me. But then that's when I started realizing I'm blaming them, but I've trained them to be this way. And I need them to be this way for me to feel significance. Yeah, I think that role of a woman having her first child and then the expectation that comes from that dynamic creates this expectation that the child either explicitly or indirectly kind of picks up on, and then that becomes the conditioning of survival in terms of I need to be good, I need to be non-problematic, and I need to help everyone else for me to feel like I'm a valuable human.
And it's not an older child thing. I'm not the only oldest child. I have an older brother.
Rather.
That's my full brother that I grew up with. I'm just the oldest daughter. And you treat them differently because girls are in charge of a lot of things from a very young age. And I definitely felt like that and felt like I needed to make everybody happy.
Hmm.
For me, one of the recent things that I had that ties in really well with this is I would people please. And I don't know if I was all the way in fawn and the fight or flight response in it because I definitely spent like a decade in functional freeze, I now know. But I, for example, if I was scheduling a Thanksgiving celebration and I'm trying to coordinate, I have 5 children, I'm trying to coordinate with everyone. And if somebody was unhappy, I would try to rearrange, I would call everybody, I would try to make that so that no one was disappointed and everybody had the perfect experience. And I was compelled to do it. I felt like I need to fix this. I need to
Hmm.
make this conflict go away.
Hmm.
And that's what made me think I might have been falling into fight or flight when I was doing that from earlier growing up. But when I stopped doing it and was like, okay, well, this is when it is, and I hope you can come, or whatever that boundary was, man, oh man, the response from the people that needed me to keep doing that was in some instances outrageous,
Mhm,
outrageous.
mhm,
And I was attacked
mhm.
verbally and on social media about it. And it was kind of crazy that I was just like, hey, this is just too much. I can't. I mean, my kids have significant others and their families, and this is when it works best for the kids that can actually come. And everybody else, I hope you can come. And that's it. And I can't accommodate everyone, nor is it my job to. But boy, I tell you, when I held that boundary, I felt like a terrible person
Yeah,
inside.
yeah.
All of that. I mean, I wanted to fix it and correct it and make everybody happy, but it wouldn't have made me happy. And I likely couldn't have solved it because it's not solvable. Right? The schedule is what the schedule is. And when your kids are adults, you're just damn lucky you get to spend time with them, honestly. And so that's how I felt about it. But it felt terrible and the reaction was harsh, but only from the people that benefited the most from me rearranging and making sure that they didn't get upset by anything. And it was huge and it's not easy. So what kind of tips? I have to be pretty typical in what people end up feeling when they finally hold that boundary and decide, I'm not doing this shit anymore. What tips do you have for somebody that's finding themselves wanting to do it and it's hard?
Okay, so it's not gonna be hard is the first thing, because like
Right.
you said, for the individual, they deal with a lot of guilt and shame. I'm a bad person for saying no. I should be able to help. All of these beliefs of like what my role signifies in the family unit or the friendship unit or what or the workplace unit. This bleeds through everything. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So it's not going to be hard, but for some of us, like you, I don't know if it was the same as you. For me, I needed to hit a rock bottom to be like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
something to change.
And
You
I
know,
didn't decide to go there. Like the universe went, oh, here, you're not going to go? Here, let me fix it where you will go.
exactly. I always say when people are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that you experienced depression and a suicide attempt." I was like, I kind of need it. I was so, as firstborn daughters, we're so hard headed, right? We had to be so resilient, so strong. And typically in our family unit, we're the ones that are always right. So letting go of our view of what we think is right or wrong is really, really difficult. And I needed, I almost said that I was praying to God because I knew I was so tired, like to my bones. It was not like I need to sleep tired. I was just spent. And I was like, I don't think I can do this, but I wasn't changing. And I was still doing the same thing. So I needed to be kind of picked up, thrown on the wall for me to be like, okay, anything else but this. I don't want to be depressed, you know? But one of the things that I had to have compassion on and take responsibility in is that for my whole life until depression, I had trained my family to expect me to show up a certain way. So if I am giving someone something and it's their lifeline and I remove it from them, I can't not expect a reaction, right? So it's
Hmm.
like being mindful that it may seem like, because if you're looking at it from the perspective of the giver, it's like I've been given so much and now I'm saying I need some support and I need a break. You're reacting negatively. That's valid too. And the reaction to having their lifeline removed is also valid, right? So I think I'm not going to say which family member, a family member said to me, because when I fell into depression, I cut them off for almost a year so that I can figure out how to heal without those same dynamics. And they said to me, when you were depressed, you abandoned me and I rejected it. I resented you for it. And I'm like, I was depressed. I didn't just leave and abandon you. I was like, I was trying to kill myself, you know? So they
Right.
don't have the rationality of, okay, what's going on with you? Because they've never had to think of it because we always have it together and we don't need any help. And we take care of our own stuff and we cry in private, you know? So they're not trained to respond. So for someone who's going through this, I think going into it, knowing and expecting them to react will be the first thing that won't make the reaction so harsh and consistent. Like with everyone is children in adult suits. So if you think about a child throwing a tantrum, if you give into it, they're just going to continue on the same. They're like, oh, I've got her in the palm of my hand. Whereas if you're consistent with the consequence and the boundary, they eventually adjust and then they act accordingly. So if you spend all of your life training them to be a certain way, it's going to take a little time to train them out of it. And it's about you having that resilience and being clear on why you're doing it for yourself and for them, because you've been robbed. What I also had to acknowledge is I've been robbing them of the ability to fly. I've kind of made them need me, and I haven't instilled the confidence in them that they can do it without me. So it's in their best interest and in my best interest to step away. So grounding yourself in that commitment, knowing that their reaction is valid as well as yours, and being consistent in pushing through are the key to shifting those dynamics.
And sometimes they just don't ever come around and understand, right? I mean, I'll be honest, some of my family members called me harsh names. They were really kind of cruel about it. And sometimes you just have to be able to let that go and say, hey, it'll heal and eventually come back around if it's meant to.
I haven't found, so I can acknowledge that. And I think maybe the approach that I use with my clients, I haven't found family members that haven't come round. I would suspect. So, as humans, we all want to be seen and heard. And there's something, it's really difficult when you're in pain and you're trying to make the change and someone else is reacting because their triggered state activates your trigger state. But if you're able to get into a place of love and be like, okay, what do I need to give myself to resolve what's coming up for me? And then get into their world. And because with my sister, there was a lot of conflict. But when I started saying, I hear you and you're right, and I'm sorry that you feel that way, all of a sudden the anger, the flames kind of started to diminish
Yeah.
because there was nothing sparking it. So I think that I'm not sure about your specific situation. I have found that usually I've worked with over 80 women so far, that turbulence is temporary if it's handled with empathy and acknowledgement of what's going on with the other side.
Great advice. Great advice. What about, so I often found myself as the strong person in every relationship that I had. And so when I collapsed, they collapse. If I cry, they cry harder. Whatever if I'm upset, something bad must be happening and it affected them in such a way too. And that's really hard and makes you bottle everything up so you don't upset everybody and it makes you feel like you don't have anyone that you can lean on. And working through that can be really difficult. So I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask, if somebody's finding themselves in that position where they're really there, I can hear myself saying it. It's almost toxic independence. I'm just going to do it myself. I can count on myself. This part of my life I need to do alone. And yes, to a certain extent I did, but it became almost like a shield.
Yeah, I think this is why I started the Firstborn Daughter community because they're usually the top of the food chain in terms of the family. Everyone leans on them and then they don't feel like they can go anywhere. And some of the new members have cried the last maybe 6 calls, and their feedback is like, I never cry. And every time I come on these calls, I cry. And it's like, yeah, you don't have the space to cry. So I think finding your tribe for me, I had a moment after my depression where, well, actually, after growing my business, where I was like, I don't know who I am. I love my friends that I've grown up with, but they don't get me. None of them are running businesses. And from that moment, I kind of started in my meditations, like asking, like, how can I attract people I can learn from? And how can I attract people I can lean on? And I would ask my sister, how do you make new friends? Because I wasn't as social as her. And she would tell me like have conversations. I'm like, yeah, but say what, you know? I was introduced to a community called AFES, which is an event that Mind Valley do. It's a large online community. And that was the first time I was put in a group of people who were doing really big things in the world, who were open hearted, who were doing personal work. And all of a sudden I had this whole new world opened up to me of people that not could not only relate to what I was doing, but they were doing way more than me, which was intimidating at first. And that's another thing to kind of face when you're the one that everyone looks up to and you're inspired by. it's pretty threatening putting yourself in an environment where you're the underdog. That you kind of need to, if you want to alleviate this, like I'm alone and I have to carry it all. There are other people that can hold you. You just got to be willing to not be the top, or when your identity is pegged around kind of being the successful one and being the one everyone comes to, that's another obstacle that you need to get over in order to be in those spaces where you can find tribe that can hold space for you. But it's really important.
And for me, it was about being comfortable feeling vulnerable and that I was going to get support, like being brave enough to reach out in that community. And for me, my former co-host Christina was a big step for me. I just had a natural connection to her. She is the first daughter,
Firstborn daughter, yeah.
right? And but I just we were on a very similar spiritual journey, but she helped me see the parts of myself that I wasn't comfortable showing other people just because of the reactions that I had gotten before, either with the mostly the lack of support, where just a total lack of wanting to understand why I'm upset. And so that's really important, reaching out and finding those communities. So, how did you form your community? Let's get on the entrepreneurial side of it a little bit. That's a big deal. That's part of it, and it's part of the things that a lot of people, I think, struggle with is building it and understanding how vulnerable you have to be to do that too.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I'm grateful to myself about is that when it came to work and business, I just wanted that we grew up really, we didn't grow up poor. When we moved to London, we were really poor. So no electricity, no gas. So I wanted to figure out the fast track way to making a lot of money. And I didn't want to figure it out on my own. I was like, okay, when I was doing my internship from university, I was in a mutual fund investment company, and there were people that were making a lot of money each year. And I was thinking, I want to know how to do that. They're already there. Let me ask. So from before I even graduated, I was reaching out to people, asking them for mentorship. I didn't know it was mentorship at the time. I'd just say, like, can I ask you some questions? Like, what is your career? How did you get into it? What was your pathway? And then when I left that role, and I had some corporate positions, and then when I started my own business, it was after my last suicide attempt, and I had a whole bunch of situations that happened. I was engaged to be married. I canceled that 4 months before the day. I was given an ultimatum at a startup that I was a partner for. I was about 25. And he told me to either keep my opinion to myself or leave. I was like, okay, I'm leaving. And then I moved back in with my mum. But at this point, I was experiencing symptoms of depression. So I was so angry at her. I was like, how can you let me not have a childhood? And so we were clashing. So all of those circumstances happening at the same time broke me, fell into depression. And I was like, even though I'm not feeling well mentally, I'm never going to give anyone the power to be able to fire me ever again. So I guess I'm starting my business. And that's how I started my recruitment business. And I thought back and I was like, oh, there was a guy that I really liked when I did my internship 4 years ago. I'm going to send him an email and see if he'd be happy to like be a mentor. And he agreed. And we would meet every month and I'd update him on what was going on in life and business. And we became really, really good friends. So I would say if there's somewhere you aspire to be, reach out to someone that's already done it, and usually they're more than happy to help. People like to help each other. In terms of how I found my tribe, that's been a journey. I live in Tulum, Mexico now, and it's just like a whole town of who I call family. But it
I'm
started when
definitely coming to visit. Did you guys hear her invite me to come and
yeah,
visit?
sure. I'm only going to be. I'm deciding I'm moving next year, so you got to come before next year.
Okay.
You're
All
more than
right.
welcome. When I was 4 years into my business, I'd grown it to 7 figures, but I woke up one day and there was no spark. I was like, "Well, I don't
Mm.
care about the business. I don't want to go in." And couldn't make myself, and I didn't know what was wrong. And one thing I appreciate about my mom is that she introduced us to meditation at a very young age. So I would say to her, my mentor is telling me to stay, my finance director is telling me it's a phase, but this has been going on for 6 months. I really don't want to work in the business anymore. And she said, stop listening to people, go and turn within. So I went to India, went to a meditation ashram, and spent about 6 to 7 hours a day meditating. And when I wasn't doing that, I was doing arts and crafts and singing in the band. And I was like, oh, I'm playing for the first time. I haven't played. And then I realized the reason my motivation died for the business is because my why that was driving me was providing for my family, and my siblings were graduating and getting jobs. And so the need wasn't there anymore. And
Your
I was
work
like,
was done.
it was done. So then it's like, who am I? Like you said, it's like when you're not needed, it's like there's this void. And I was like, oh, I need to figure out who I am, what I like doing, what I want to do for work. And while I was there was a friend of mine called E. He used to be the director of sports therapy for the New York Knicks. He reached out to me and was like, hey, and I'm from London. We don't talk to people. Americans like to talk to people. So I was just like, he's being a bit friendly. And he pulled me to the side and he was like, what's your story? And then he said, "You're such an A-fester." It's like, "What are those?" And he said, "Have you heard of Burning Man?" I was like, "No, I've never heard of Burning Man." He was like, "Where have you been?" He said, "It's a mixture between TED Talks and Burning Man, and just apply for this, and hopefully you get selected." And that's kind of how I found out about A-Fest. I put an application in, and then in 2016, I came to my first A-Fest in Cancun. And that's where my world kind of blew open. I met Lisa Nichols and all of these other entrepreneurs and people in the wellness space. And I hired Lisa as my coach at the time, came back from India, closed my business down. And those people, this almost like it's created a global family. I've got people all over the world that I can reach out to. And so that's where it started. And there's a number of events that led to me coming here during the pandemic and just having more of that. This is like an adult Disneyland if you're into personal and spiritual growth. So it's
Well,
been
I
amazing.
definitely am. I started meditating about 15 years ago, and it has helped me in immense ways. One of the things that I tell all of my clients that are struggling, even if it's just in sales, for example, is you have to start with 5 minutes by yourself, no technology. You're being flooded with thought data into your brain with so much external stuff telling you how to think. So when they finally sit down with themselves, they're like, well, I can't clear my brain. My mind's racing. And I'm like, yeah, if humans can't clear their brain, they're comatose,
Yeah.
right? It's eliminating that. Your thoughts have not had a chance to be heard. So
Mhm,
that's why they're all rushing out. Just do it every day and it will calm. And then eventually the answers will come
mhm.
and you'll know how you really think about it because right now you're so overwhelmed with it. And I love that you went to India. I have to tell you that Sadhguru, parts of his teachings changed my life in significant ways.
Beautiful.
And so I'm jealous. If I could be jealous, I would be envious that you got to go to India and meditate for 6 hours a day. The number of creative downloads I would have. I get the biggest creative downloads when I'm meditating because it opens everything up and eliminates all of the external stimulus.
It really does. It really does. You do hear it. Yeah, my mum used to say everything you want and need exists within you, and the way to access it is through silence. And that couldn't be more true.
Your mom was obviously a badass.
Yeah, it really was.
Obviously was. Wow. What an amazing thing to grow up hearing. Right? What an amazing thing. And yet, still, the personal growth just doesn't come through happiness and joyful times. It just doesn't. And so get prepared. And it sounds like you do a fantastic job of helping all of the first daughters like me get through all of those struggles. Had I known that your tribe was out there, it would have been so helpful to have. I was like stumbling around in the dark with it, but I found my way.
You,
So
you did.
if any of your, say, my listeners out there, first daughters, or I think probably there's some second daughters that fall into it depending on the dynamics of that first daughter. But if you're out there and you have been identifying, and I know you're out there identifying with everything that Adaku and I have been talking about, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you and learn more about your program and your story, which is amazing?
I would say the best way is probably my website, which is www.healedhero.com. I typically run a free masterclass every month, so they can access that. And I'm on social media. I need to get better at being on social media, but my accounts are there and I get messages on there. So Instagram, Adaku_Mbagwu, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok.
all the things. I'm on there too. And I'm
Yeah.
like the contractor that doesn't work on their house. I'm in marketing and it is so hard to keep up with all of the different platforms. I feel you. And when you're very meditative and you're in that space, it's really hard to convert and be so external.
Do you know, I'm coming out of you're saying, if the community is new, I'm coming out of 3.5 years of time off. I was only working 7 hours a week because I just really wanted to reset my body and nervous system into not doing. So this is me kind of reintroducing myself into the world and growing this community. So I wish I had it like you. I was like, oh my gosh, if this existed when I needed it, then, and I get so much from the women now. And I share because I don't think growth ever stops. There's never a point where you arrive. So I'm constantly sharing with them my reflections. And sometimes in coaching them, I'm seeing what I still need to work on. And I let them know I'm taking it on for myself. But yeah, it's been an interesting balance from going from kind of flowing through the day and just traveling and doing what I want to you gotta work and market and all the things.
Assignment and
Yeah,
assignment.
exactly. So I'm waiting. I'm sure it will click into flow. Right now, it's all like, oh my God, everything needs to be done. And then I'm doing it and I'm loving it and I'm having fun and I'm excited about what's going to be built. But yeah, it's
It's
early.
still a little bit of a culture shock. So if someone wants to join your community, is that on your website as well?
It is. It is.
Okay,
They can
we
go
will link
to
to that also. I'm so excited to have met you and had you on my
likewise.
show. I feel a very kindred spirit with you. Just, I think the mutual challenges that we have both faced, and you're such a joy to talk to.
Thank you.
I really have enjoyed our conversation, and I hope that we can stay in touch.
Thank you so much for having me.
100%. So, you guys, I will link to all of Adoku's stuff in the show notes and highly recommend you check out all of her stuff. I was quite impressed by it, and I'm sure that you will be too. You can always check out our website for more information about me and the show at dealswithheels.com. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. We always need more new listeners. And until next week, thank you. We're out.